All right, it's 4:30, so we're going to go ahead and get this Personnel, Buildings and Grounds and Finance Committee meeting started. Adila, can we call the roll, please?
Halpern.
Here.
Wilkins.
Here.
Sue.
Here.
We'll begin with our land acknowledgements. In the acknowledgement of the contributions of the enslaved. We take time to acknowledge that the land we meet on is the traditional homelands of the Council of Three Fires, the Potawatomi, the Ojibwe, and the Odawa. This land also served as an important meeting place for the Miami, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Anoka, Sac, Fox, Peoria, Arapaho, Cheyenne, and other tribal nations. This land has long been a center for Indigenous people to gather, trade, and maintain kinship ties. Located at the intersection of several great waterways, the region has become the site of travel and prosperity. We acknowledge that Evanston and John Evans are tied to the massacre of the Arapaho and Cheyenne for railroads and westward expansion upon which John Evans developed his wealth and founded Evanston. This land was violently taken under settler colonialism through genocide and open warfare, and the region that is now Illinois and Chicagoland is still home to thousands of Native people who are actively struggling for sovereignty, self-determination, and justice. The genocidal acts of settler colonialism extended to peoples of Africa and their enslaved descendants. Despite Illinois eventually prohibiting slavery, slavery was an accepted practice before and after statehood. The vestiges of slavery remain present throughout the United States and directly affect the descendants of enslaved peoples, descendants who helped define the African diaspora, rich and heterogeneous communities descended from the African peoples. The genocidal patterns of violence against peoples of African descent and indigenous peoples have been replicated to exclude and harm people from many intersecting marginalized identities: religious minorities, disabled and LGBTQ identified peoples, BIPOC, and people of color writ large in the United States. These patterns of violence demonstrate that the pursuit to end state-sanctioned violence against BIPOC is a daily struggle for liberation from continued social, political, and economic anti-Black racism and oppression. Today, we acknowledge that we are living, breathing, loving, grieving, laughing, and sharing space on unceded territory. May we learn to honor the historical and contemporary presence and power of the people and their beliefs that we must be caretakers of the lands and waters for the livelihood of future generations. The land that surrounds us is part of who we are. It reflects our histories. It is within District 65's responsibility as an academic institution to disseminate knowledge about the Black and Indigenous peoples and marginalized peoples writ large, consistent with our commitment to equity. We will work towards sharing truth and promoting healing for the sake of our children and families. It is important to understand the long-standing history that has brought us to reside on the land and to seek to understand our place within that history. Land acknowledgements do not exist in the past tense or only in a historical context. Colonialism is a current and ongoing process, and we need to understand our current present participation. We encourage everyone consuming this message to continue expanding their knowledge and reduce their harm through awareness of local mutual aid models for survival and engagement with online and local resources, such as the Chicago American Indian Community Collaborative and the Shorefront Legacy Center. Has everyone had a chance to look at the meeting agenda for today?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Any questions, concerns, or changes?
No.
No? So there's no changes, and we will move forward. Agenda item number 2, public comments. Do we have anybody signed up for public comment today? Wonderful. Members of the public are welcome and invited to address the Personnel, Buildings and Grounds and Finance Committee during open public session. Speakers are discouraged from using the public comment period to air specific concerns about staff members, being mindful that the public comment period is not a suitable forum for fact-finding or resolution of disputes. Rather, we encourage members of the public who have concerns about specific folks to follow district communication guidelines found in the student handbook. Please remember to state your name and that you have 3 minutes to address the committee. Also note that it is not customary for the committee to respond to public comment. The best way to correspond with members is by emailing us at schoolboard@district65.net.
We have Jamie Wallace.
Hello, my name is Jamie Wallace. I'm a parent at King Arts of a 2nd grader and a 5th grader.
I'm here today to first read a note that we'd like to be submitted into public comment that was sent on behalf of our school, many of our parents, as well as myself. And then I would like to just close with some observations that I personally have made as the PTA president and as a parent. So this letter was addressed to Personnel, Building, and Grounds and Finance Committee at District 65 and District 65 Board. In 2017, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Literary and Fine Arts School, King Arts, established its Capital Planning Committee to work in partnership with District 65 Building and Grounds personnel, Administrative Leadership, Finance Committee, and D65 School Board at large. Since then, the partnership has been a collaboration to plan and execute the safe entryway. We have shared structural assessments to complement the 2016 life safety assessment conducted by a District 65 contractor and tried to advocate for our school based on the detailed work presented in the Cordigan, Clark, and Associates and District 65 Master Facility Plan. Despite these working channels of communication and partnership, District 65 is again making decisions that will free up funding for capital projects to implement a plan that continues a pattern of underinvestment in King Arts. The building has been identified as having the greatest need for building improvements. Items that have been part of the plan and are now currently stalled or non-existent is financial investment in the structure, safety, and physical school building. Based on the documentation of D65 vendors, Akron and Cordigan and Clark, King Arts facility needs have been repeatedly identified, priced, and then reprioritized behind other schools with reasons ranging from no one bid on the project to do a more completed project in the future. Even as we face an abatement plan for 2023, the scope is being value engineered to the bare minimum, resulting in partial abatement, total facility shutdown for the summer, and no plans for future summer or consideration for programs or student safety. Fence around our playground. This is a safety and equity issue. Our school is not having fencing when we are situated between very active bike paths and this is concerning. We regularly see people cycling, walking, and riding motor-powered bikes through the schoolyard. If there is a plan to purchase fencing for our school, what stage are we at? What is the timeline? What is the project design and areas for the fencing? We're asking for some boundaries, the same boundaries other schools in District 65 already have. I will also note that there's recorded incidences of safety because of the canal by our school for our RISE students, and this is a personal concern for our teachers, our staff, and again, our community. Traffic flow with buses, pedestrians, and car routes for both entrances. Recently, this district has enacted a much-needed range and size of buses and tracking technology for our RISE students. The unintended consequence is multiple large buses in and out of the parking lot. Okay. Thank you. So you guys have seen the note, and I guess at the end of the day, the concern is that we do know that these things have not been done. We're not sure what the priorities are, what the rankings are. We've been trying to get participation and collaboration. It's just not happening.
Thank you.
We have Jody Wickersheimer.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jody Wickersheimer. I'm also a King Arts parent. I have a first grader, a third grader, and a fifth grader. My fifth grader was in kindergarten when Raphael and I started working on the safe entryway. So we've been in this for a minute with District 65. I want to thank the committee members as well as the King Arts community for continuing to engage in the conversation about safety and upkeep of our schools. Today, the committee is talking about ways to finance the much-needed capital investment. I'm asking the committee to raise the question about the broader plan. King Arts has been following the work of this committee over several years. The broader plan was shared last February during Cordigan Clark's presentation, and the details of that have not been made public since then. Quite frankly, the annual investments are not connected to the broader scope. There is no context for how decisions have been made. The murkiness in the big picture is having two results. First, schools and communities cannot track progress. Did the asbestos abatement happen? Is it the same scope that was proposed last year? Will there be summer school at our school this year? Will the facility be able to be rented or not? Secondly, the lack of clarity and transparency is translating to District 65 staff being unresponsive to current needs. And so you have parents showing up to you to talk about operational things. which sadly, it has gotten a response. Since we sent the initial communication to you yesterday, we now have a date for when our fence is going to be installed at King Arts. And we also have a commitment that the long-term plan will be communicated. It is still unclear if it's currently being followed or if it will be developed so decisions can be made in the next 6 months. We are still awaiting communication about how to work together and make a plan to route buses and cars and pedestrians through the parking lot at the same time every morning and every afternoon. While I am a King Arts parent, the ultimate goal is for us to be a working part of the community and have some systemic changes. As such, the request is that staff be communicative, ensure district plans are shared so that schools and caregivers can be involved, and that the board have the same expectation. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes the public comments for today.
Thank you. We're going to go to agenda item number 3, which is the ELA material adoption recommendation. Dr. Beardsley and your SWAT team came to share the road you've been traveling.
We'll first start, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we'll first start with some introductions. My name's Shyla Kinhall. I'm the Director of Literacy.
Alyssa Zaravel, I teach kindergarten at Kingsley.
Julie Irons, I'm the speech language pathologist at Bessie Rhodes.
Emily Castillo, instructional coach at Washington Elementary.
Regina Colquitt, literacy content facilitator.
Thanks. Just wanted to make sure you knew who everybody was, because this was really, they're part of a team, a larger team, and this was really a collaborative decision here, or recommendation that we're bringing to you. So today we just want to make sure that we have time with you to, one, just give you all a sense for the selection process and what that looked like, highlight some key things that we did, discuss the recommendation and why, and request funding. So this was shared at the curriculum and policy meeting, but just as at a really high level, wanted to make sure it was clear where our decision making is coming from. And so a video that we watched that I probably could now recite to you by memory it's from Scarborough's Reading Rope, and it's really around it's a theoretical framework that really discusses how person becomes a skilled reader and writer. And so all of our decision making was really grounded in this theoretical model. To that end, we had, through the process, developed a vision for equitable literacy instruction. These are the high-level components. I'll give you a chance to read them, but also I think you have a handout that has our draft vision. It's an active draft because we're currently seeking feedback from stakeholders, but just wanted to make sure you knew that this was something that really guided the team in decision making. So I'll give you just a moment to read those bullets. So at a high level, the curriculum selection process started in early November and went until, well, this very moment. We are sitting here with you talking about it. And I'm going to give Julie and Regina some space to talk about which parts felt most important for us to get to this place.
I should have sat next to Regina. I just wanted to add, this is, I've been on several different committees in the district, and this was an incredible experience being part of the committee that Shyla ran. The diversity of voices from different buildings, different roles, different backgrounds was incredible to bring us all together. And her approach to not only the selection process, but I felt like it was a change management process as well, was really powerful. It included community building, developing this shared vision, but also a vision for our work together, and opportunities to engage in the content in our own content learning and our own academic discussion, so that as we leave the committee, we're also ambassadors for this new adoption.
As Julie was talking about, we actually took a nice amount of time building our own capacity and understanding about the shifts in literacy that we were thinking about and we were elevating in our vision. And so within like somewhere between 20, 24 hours of working together, we looked at every single resource at the unit level. We looked at the overview, and we also looked at it all the way down to the lesson level. And we also thought about the diverse learners in our classrooms and how they would receive the materials that were listed there. The time was well spent. We did build a team, and we definitely would have very strong voices coming from the committee to go out and support all of our teachers in this process.
We also realized at a certain point during our work that it was really important that at the end of the day, regardless of the recommendation that we had, we knew that we were honoring some really key guiding principles. And so, again, I'll just give you a moment to scan these bullets so you can see what was top of mind for us. And the reason why I think the team lingered here is because while a curricular resource isn't everything, it plays a critical role in achieving equitable literacy instruction. And so we wanted to make sure that these guiding principles were really at the forefront of any decision that we came to. At a high level, we wanted to make sure you knew what criteria we were using when we were reviewing the resources, as Regina mentioned. So the three criteria that I think we spent the most time really developing our own understanding around was one, criteria number 3, what it really looks like for materials to build knowledge through literacy. That's a key aspect of equitable literacy instruction. What it means for a resource to have culturally sustaining practices. I think we often think about the diversity of texts and voices and representation. That is absolutely part of that, but really how kids are being positioned to own their learning and engage in productive struggle was something we really talked and looked at the resources and thought about which resources were really helping kids do that, own their learning. And then what does high quality foundational skills look like and sound like in action was something we spent time doing too. So this is where we landed. We are coming to you with a recommendation for Wit and Wisdom across grades K to 5. That's the bottom resource. And that really is to support reading comprehension and evidence-based writing. And then the companion to that in grades K to 2 around foundational skills would be Hegarty, Foundations, and Geodes. Hegarty is really around supporting phonemic awareness. Foundations is really around supporting phonics and word recognition, and Geodes are strong decodable texts that align to the content of Wit and Wisdom. And I am going to give Regina some space to talk about why Wit and Wisdom.
So why Wit and Wisdom? As you look at the bullets in front of you, I just want to highlight that Wit and Wisdom gives students an opportunity to have access to complex text throughout an entire unit. It's following how research says how we build students' vocabulary and build their reading comprehension. The units are all organized around one single topic. As students are exposed to those single topics, they're able to withstand or engage in more and more complex text within their grade band. And so that, again, enhances their knowledge, their reading comprehension, and actually gets them prepared for any assessments that we've already highlighted in our district. I think last part would be, we also, this resource helps us to engage with evidence-based writing, where students are able to look into the text and support their thinking in what the author is stating in the particular text. And those are areas that our students definitely more and more experience in.
Also just want to add, any resource that we did look at, our floor was that it had a green on Ed Reports, and then from there we were looking even more deeply around our criteria. And you have this slide deck, so in your leisure, when you would like, you can come back to these quotes, but we did have some teachers trialing wit and wisdom, and so these were some of the things they had to say. And I think the biggest standout here was the mindset shift that educators went through, and just their excitement and passion around seeing what their kids were really able to do and the work that they were able to produce. Heggerty Foundations and Geodes. Alyssa and Emily, would you mind saying a little bit here?
So, the most important part about this is that, the team did review different resources. Some of them were full package programs, and we felt that those package resources weren't comprehensive enough to meet the needs of all learners in District 65. And that's why we landed with Heggerty Foundations and Geodes. These are three separate resources that, when put together, really do create a comprehensive foundational skill system for kids. One that's systematic and cumulative, with the goal in mind for students to master the skills. So what we're aiming for is by the time students finish second grade, they're going to have mastered all foundational skills needed to really tackle comprehension in the upper grades. And they do this through multisensory approaches, which is great for all diverse learners, multilingual learners, in essence, for all students.
I was lucky enough to be one of the teachers that actually trialed the Foundations, Heggerty, and Geodes portion, and I can tell you flat out, the things that my students are doing this year is above and beyond what we have been able to do in the past. I've got students who are so much more comfortable with their ability to be able to read, really building that that level of confidence and mastering the sounds and the decoding portion. It has been absolutely phenomenal, and I really think that especially the Foundations and Heggerty piece really keying the kids into the sounds that they hear in the world around them and what letters make those sounds. It's just been a really fascinating thing to see. And the geodes pair very well because the geodes are created to mirror what the lesson has been for Foundations. So they coincide very well.
And one last thing, I was yesterday as an instructional coach, I partake in POCs, in meetings at grade level teams, and while sitting with a first grade team yesterday, one of the statements that stood out to me the most as we were kind of reflecting on this year's foundational skills work was an educator sharing that they are actively seeing students are finally experiencing what it is to learn to read. So they're not just mildly sitting in the back seat waiting for it to come. And so that, I think, is very powerful on its own.
Melissa had a video ready to show you of a student, actually.
She only knew 7 sounds going into the school year, only knew 7 letters, and now she's fully decoding and being able to automatically read CVC words, consonant, vowel, consonant words, and she's just so excited because she's the youngest of her siblings and all of her older brothers get to read, and she's just excited that she gets to partake as well, and it's just very cute. But she didn't have a media release, so I can't.
So you just have to hear.
Yeah.
So again, these are just some trial quotes talking about sort of combination of the three and how that's powerful. And wanted to just take a moment to discuss the reality that Hegarty and Foundations and Geodes and Wit and Wisdom is a monolingual only resource. It wasn't available in dual language. And the reason why I think we landed as a team there is that really that second bullet is that the resources that we did review that also have dual language programs, the gaps were too significant for use in monolingual classrooms. And so I lost my train of thought, but
So we couldn't go along with the curricular materials that were built for dual language because some of the pieces of them were still things that we knew were not best practice for our students.
yeah. And it was honestly for different reasons where some of the gaps came. Yeah. Emily spoke to this a little bit, but just wanted to highlight the supports for multilingual learners and diverse learners in both Wit and Wisdom and Hegarty Foundations and Geodes are really meant, that sort of framing right there, to keep students in Tier 1 instruction. If you're familiar with the opportunity myth from TNTP, really what it shows is that kids who need access to grade level instruction oftentimes continue not to get it. And so the whole frame here is we want to keep kids in rigorous instruction, and our scaffolds are supporting them within that. And so there are multilingual learner resources embedded within Wit and Wisdom, as well as diverse learner scaffolds. Did you want to say a little bit about Hegarty? Yeah.
I just wanted to add a tiny bit that also one thing we found valuable for multilingual learners and kids who get individualized education services was the predictable structure of some of the lessons in Foundations, that we felt that would be supportive of students with those kind of needs or those kind of backgrounds. And we also felt that the ability to build academic language was supported by a suite where Wit and Wisdom and Geodes were mirroring each other, so they were getting more repetition of the academic language and the content.
And Foundations is really also explicitly meant to be used as a double dose for kids who need it, so that they're not experiencing necessarily a different system, a different framework, but that they're getting more of the at-bats of what they essentially need. Wrapping up here, here's some impact data that we just wanted to make sure you had access to around some both independent studies and then ones that just show the impact in student achievement with these resources. And also wanted you to be aware of in buildings where there will be different resources used. We have started having proactive conversations with both leaders, TWE educators, and the multilingual department around how we can proactively work with that, right? Knowing that we want collaboration to occur, how can that look when there are two different resources being used? So here's some potential solutions that we've started to brainstorm. I'll give you a moment to look at that. And before we get to our final ask, really did want to also highlight that all research shows actually that the most significant way to change a teacher's practice is to really support curriculum-specific professional learning. Not that you're looking at page 4 of this lesson plan, but that you're really deeply understanding the shifts of a resource and then the shifts of practice, and then seeing how that shows up in your resource and have space to plan together. So we have already started thinking deeply about what professional learning would look like for next year, both using early release days, but also PLCs and coaching to support teachers, not just in using the resource, but in really understanding the shifts involved. Did you want to speak a little bit to the importance of professional learning?
Sure. This suite of materials is a very different structure to what many of our teachers in the district are used to. It is a very different change of where our head is at when we are teaching literacy. So it's going to be really important to have a strategic learning surrounding these new skills. And as a committee, we did a lot of that learning, and we can't ask teachers to throw away everything that they've learned throughout their careers without explaining to them why and why that's so important, and giving them the support they need through professional development to make those things happen. Also, these materials really benefit for the teachers being familiar with them. If we want teacher buy-in, we need to give them support. If we just hand them a bunch of, teacher's manuals and say, go for it, people are going to panic. So it's going to be really important that we get this ball rolling as soon as we can to make sure that we are giving the teachers the support that they need.
All of my friends know the work that I do, so the text messages that I've been getting about the recent New York Times article around the science of reading, they're like, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you seen this? And it just feels really timely that we have an opportunity here in this district to bring about practices that will really promote evidence-based and equitable literacy practices. And so this is our ask to you. We're hoping for support for the adoption of Foundations, Heggerty, and Geodes, and Wit and Wisdom in our ELA K-5 classrooms, and you can see how much that is, and that really supports the use of these resources across, again, foundational skills and language comprehension. Is there anything, Stacy, that you want to?
I don't have a mic. No, all sincerity, I think they have covered it, and really we are seeking support for the adoption and for the funding to purchase. And this is going to be an exciting couple-year project to get good at this, and we're excited about from the feedback and the work of these educators. I think additionally, the standing committee is supporting the recommendation, and the curriculum advisory committee has supported the recommendation.
Thank you. Questions?
We might have a few questions. Questions?
Yeah, I guess I'll start. So first of all, I'm really excited to see this moving forward, and I definitely understand the need behind it, so I'm glad that we're at this step. I guess my first question is, I just want to understand a little bit more about the timing and just the support that you think will be needed in order to make sure teachers are really comfortable, since this is such a big shift.
Yeah. So we are hoping, I think really the first thing we want to do is make sure we are really clear on what the learning is, what do we want educators and leaders, right? If we're going to support our teachers, leaders also have to feel supported in this. So we will have a learning strand for leaders and coaches as well as educators. We are hoping for a summer kickoff that obviously educators would be compensated for, but where they would have an opportunity to be introduced to the shifts in those materials. And then our goal is to have sort of mini cycles of learning around the early release, where the early release day is sort of the center of that, but that there's coaching and PLC support alongside that. And that would be year one, and then in year 2 and year 3, there are still some implementation supports that are necessary. But in K-2, the focus first would be around foundational skills, and then gradually spend some time around language comprehension. And then in grades 3 to 5, it would really be around how to support students in systematically building knowledge and the role of complex texts.
Got it. Okay, so it seems like this will be something that'll be rolled out over a couple of different years before everybody is fully familiar with everything. Okay. And this might not be a question for you, this might be a question for someone else, but how does this compare from a cost perspective to the previous program we were using?
I can pick that up. So the upfront cost when you move into kind of a more comprehensive package is definitely greater. Mm-hmm. As we moved through Calkins, you had a smaller cost on essentially the instructional kits, but you were having to kind of continuously fill libraries to support those units on an annual basis. Okay. And so the cost structures really are different. What we're leaning into here is a comprehensive solution that has a pretty heavy upfront cost. Okay. We will then need to repeat that cost in 3 years, but that will be a smaller amount. because it'll be sustaining the consumables and things along those lines, as well as some of the digital subscriptions, but not as heavy an upfront cost. Where we should see some cost savings would be on the annual expenses. Students will continue to have opportunities to read wide, but we'll think about how to partner with library and partner with and use the resources that are in our classrooms already for that. And so, the short answer is it is more expensive up front, but we are getting a comprehensive solution that will have the full set of resources for our educators to draw on, and there will not be some of the same ongoing expenses to replenish libraries at the same volume.
Got it, okay. And I wonder if it's more effective if that saves us costs in other ways as well, in terms of having to help students more get up to speed.
I would argue that, and I think this group has done an incredible job of diving into this. The very systematic focus on structured literacy, and this group has listened to the presentations out of JEH and our early childhood, and they have embedded Heggerty and some of the work of phonics and phonemic awareness very systematically in their early childhood work. We had a phonics solution within the Calkin suite, but it was not well integrated and not deeply embedded and consistently. So moving into a structured solution that is also comprehensive and connected, I think should, in the long term, allow us to see a greater number of students ultimately hitting that really important benchmark at the end of third grade, but also a really important benchmark at the end of first grade. And that should, in time, lessen some of the weight around intervention and additional supports. The other thing we've got to watch over time is what does this mean around opportunities for readers, and do we see a decrease in some of the referrals? And are we addressing concerns around dyslexia and other learning disabilities at earlier ages and lessening the gaps between where students are and where grade level is?
Got it, okay, thank you.
First, I want to say this is such an amazing collaboration, Dr. Beardsley, and such dedicated educators collaborating across the district. So this is, it's tremendous to see. And then secondly, as an English major, I love my wordplay. So when I think of a geode, I think of just looking at it, it's just this rock, this stone. And the light that go on in kids' eyes when they suddenly can crack it open, and that treasure of reading and literacy. I don't know. I just I'm a sucker for the word geode there.
The curriculum literally comes with a rock. That's the first lesson, is to break it open. So you're right on track with that.
Okay. Thank you. And then just my questions was more the additional supports there. Dr. Beardsley, you touched upon a bit of the special education piece there. And I was also curious, would the Academic Skills Center also be able to be in alignment with the training and supports for our students?
So the Academic Skills Center would be aligned at the standard level and the benchmark level. So if we think about K2, they are aware of where the learning gaps are and would focus very specifically on advancing learning around a particular learning goal or target. I think that's where we will be next year. Over time, we can evaluate the different resources and see where alignment is, and if there are any challenges there. But they will definitely be aligned at that standards and learning target level. But they will be tapping into different resources. And in some ways, in a year one, as we're learning the resources of Heggerty Foundation's geodes and wisdom, having something that the tutors are already familiar with will allow us to continue to sustain that program and grow it. And then we see what decisions we make as we know the resources better.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. You mentioned in K2 pairing Heggerty with geodes and foundations. Those aren't all from the same family, right? Did you, in this work and looking at it, did you find any other districts that are pairing those programs together, and did you hear stories of how that was working for them?
I did speak with a few districts, and I think the biggest thing that I heard was really making sure that in K-2, teachers really understand Heggerty and foundations, honestly first, layer on the geodes, and then layer on wit and wisdom. So it's important that people have access to the materials, but in terms of where our support is leaning in, there does need to be a methodical approach in what matters most in terms of building teacher capacity. But I think the reality is that because they sound like three disparate programs, but like you said, the GEODS aligns to the scope and sequence of Foundations, which builds off of the content. And GEODS is really the only decodable that exists right now that supports the topic learning that kids are doing. So I think the teachers that have been trialing with GEODS, the engagement they saw was just, it felt like something they hadn't seen before, even in terms of like what vocab kids were able to bring, because they're accessing different funds of knowledge at different times, at the same time.
Also, Heggerty is a systematic program that only takes about 5 to 10 minutes every day, so it's a pretty short chunk of time. The majority of the time would be focused on Foundations, and then GEODS is sprinkled in through that.
Great. Curious about the logistics of when, I realize we have to approve funding first, but when does the order get placed? Are materials for this available on schedule to be here in time for distribution and everything?
We would like to move forward placing the materials as soon as we have, placing the orders as soon as we have approval ultimately from the school board, and we have quotes which we've used to generate our numbers here. The status of back orders is unclear right now. There are two layers. There are the physical resources and there are the digital resources. So we've worked with this vendor before. We know we have data privacy agreements in place already, things along those lines. And so we're going to do what we can. I think we can, with some confidence, say we'll absolutely have the digital resources available, and we're hoping to have the physical material resources available before people leave. But we will only know that once we're able to place the order and get a sense of back orders. Some of the materials were back ordered last July and August, but this is an earlier window.
Okay. I really appreciate you acknowledging that you all have been on this journey and that your colleagues will be going through this in a more compressed amount of time. I think that's really important when thinking about implementation, launch, support. So I wish you luck in that journey, because that's going to be a big lift. Change is hard. A question about monolingual and TWE classrooms in the same building is less the issue, because you kind of acknowledge trying to make that work, right? My question is, when they get to 6th grade, are we setting students up for similar expectations? Are we setting students up for a cohesive opportunity to learn together in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade if we can't synchronize? I get that why we can't synchronize programming. I get why that choice was made. I worry about dilution on one side that impacts the ability later on, where you were really thoughtful about the K-5 component. Has there been any consideration to that?
I really appreciate that question, and Amy and the multilingual department and I have sort of, that is on our radar and something that we know we need to attend to. Okay. But thank you for lifting it up.
Last one, probably not for you all. Bringing in a big resource means taking out some resources, making space. I know we have board policy around disposal of things that were purchased with taxpayer dollars. Do we have a plan, or will there be a plan brought forth for how that's going to be, and communicate obviously with staff, so we're not, we don't need the emails from people being like, I see things stamped D65 property in barrels outside.
Yeah. So
it happens. It happens.
Yeah. So we are in the process of making a plan, and I think it's a couple layer plan. We've got some warehouse cleaning we need to do, and we have some school cleaning we need to do. And this is on the mind of educators. I literally had a teacher grab me today and say, well, what are we going to do with this? So we're going to build in a collection point from schools before the close of school, and then we'll probably collect again right at the beginning of the school year for things we don't get that first time. We will pallet things for the first thing we do at that point, and we'll certainly connect with folks, but we generally try to see who we can, if one, the resale is a possibility, and then two, if not, working with a Scarce or other places that recycle. And so the materials tend to leave on pallets to one of the different organizations that we work with.
Awesome. So the overall cost is 1.1 and change. What percentage of that is consumable?
I would need to do the math.
Okay, but the 1.1, it gives us 3 years of even consumable. Yep. And then we re-up after that.
Digital access, 3 years of consumables, plus all of the teacher editions across all of the different collections, and the GEODS books, which are clearly not consumables.
Awesome.
Anything to add on that? No.
And the rocks.
The rocks.
The learning rocks. Awesome. Well, thank you for the presentation and for really all the work going back months to get to this point. And good luck on the next step.
Thank you to this team and to those that they're representing today. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
But really, thank you to Shyla she really did move this along, and really, we learned so much, and we really value everything that you did.
So I move that the ELA material adoption recommendation be brought forth before the full board for approval.
Second?
Yes.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was years in the making.
It was. It still is.
Still is, yeah. Agenda item number 4, bond refunding and new money opportunity. And Liz is here. Welcome from Raymond James.
Thank you, Liz, for joining us today. Before Liz presents the information that she has at hand, I just want to start out by saying that we all know we have huge needs in capital repair and facility projects. And we also know that how you ordinarily will pay for that is by issuing general obligation bonds. But I don't think I need to remind anyone that we're pretty much tapped out as far as that is concerned till 2036. So what we've been doing is try to be creative with how we can get some additional resources to do that. And how we've been doing that in the last 4 or 5 years is we've been looking at all the outstanding bonds and the ones that are callable, which are 10 years about, for us to refund them. And if there's an opportunity to take advantage of low interest rate, then what we would do is we will refund those bonds, and the money that we'll pay for interest rate, we'll repurpose that as savings that we would then apply towards a capital project. And that's what we've done the last 4 years or so. And this is another opportunity to refund our 2013 issuance as well as 2014. And we've been working with Raymond James, a bond counsel, and this is something that we're hoping to do. I'll hand it over to Liz.
Thanks, Raphael. Thanks for having me tonight. Just to take you through this presentation, we always start with a market update, and it's not very pretty, but we certainly have seen interest rates increase with the inflation as well as the Federal Reserve rate increases, 9 of them and another one expected in early May. So, but some kind of good news. Many market participants think we may be at the end of the rope for these rate increases. We've seen inflation stabilize a little bit, but that expectation results in some of the rates coming down, as you see in the last month or so. So we're certainly in a volatile time in the market, but we still are historically low versus the average interest rate since 1993. Here are the outstanding bond issues. Most recently, the 2022 general obligation lease certificates for the building of the Fifth Ward School, the 2021 refunding bonds, which, as Raphael mentioned, generated some new money. In that case, it was $1.2 million. The 2019 bonds were also refunding and keeping the same maturity schedule. We were able to add $4.7 million of new money for capital at that point. The 2016 bonds were for new money capital projects, technology, and furniture. Going to the next page, the 2015 bonds, the same. The 2014 bonds, we don't have much detail other than capital projects on that. In 2013, that was for refunding and new money capital projects and technology. And then the 2010B bonds were for new money capital projects, and those were Build America bonds taxable bonds whereby the federal government provides about 35% of the interest cost. So that's what that subsidy column in red is, representing money that comes from the federal government to help pay those bonds. So if we look at a summary of the callable bonds that we have outstanding, the 2010Bs are currently callable, but those are those Build America bonds. So we're not refunding those because if we do, that we would lose the subsidy, which totals about $815,000 at this point. The 2013 bonds, we're going to talk about refunding those. They're callable this December of 23. That's $12,435,000. The 2014 bonds are callable December 1 of 24, about $6.9 million. And then you see 2015, 16, 19, and 22 all have callable bonds, but under federal tax law, as it currently stands, we cannot refund these bonds on a tax-exempt basis until the call date. So that's why we're kind of waiting till we hit these various call dates. So here's your current debt limit and working cash limit based on the 21 equal SSS value. The net debt limit is currently $147.2 million. The net working cash bond limit is $103 million. And I'll just mention that working cash limit is a subset of your overall debt limit, so you don't add these together. The 103 is part of the 147 and refers to bonds you can issue without referendum. However, that working cash bond limit is further constrained by the debt service extension base, and that's shown here on page 7 as part of the tax cap. So when tax caps came to Cook County in 1994, the state said you can go ahead and continue to issue non-referendum bonds subject to an annual payment limit, which was equal to what you levied for debt in 1994. So the idea is you can continue to issue these non-referendum bonds as long as the payments don't exceed what was paid in 94. In 2009, they added a CPI limit to that, so we have a little growth in that number. And on this chart, it is in the fourth column from the left, debt service extension base. Here in 23, it's up to $6,646,401. Going forward, we made some assumptions, not knowing what CPI is going to be in the future. We went for 3% in 2024 levy year, 2% thereafter. That's the Fed's target for CPI. Eventually, they're going to get there. It may be a little slower than we currently have. In the middle of the page, you see the non-referendum current debt service, which is a combination of those various bond issues, with the exception of the lease certificates that we just reviewed. And then we've got the tax rate for the bond and interest levy. And in the green column, that's the remaining DSEB capacity. The good news is that green box is a little bigger than we've seen in the past because we've had 5% CPI in 22. We're going to have another 5% CPI in 23 levy year, and we're assuming it's going to go 3% and then 2% thereafter. So that's another reason why we're able to do these refundings and get a little bit more new money. Here's just a graphic. These bars represent your payments on bonds, and the line is the debt service extension base, which is a limit to the amount you can pay off each year. Okay, so let's talk a minute about the types of non-referendum bonds you can issue. Working cash bonds is the one we typically see issued, and the reason is it's flexible. So it can be used for your priority capital projects. They don't necessarily have to be approved by the Health Life Safety, which is another type of bond you can issue, but it's a little time consuming in that those life safety approvals must be firstly determined by an architect, then amendments have to be approved by the board, sent down to Springfield in the regional office here in Cook County. Takes sometimes 2-3 months depending on the projects. And it's also restrictive. So, you know, if you have to do a secure entrance that might not qualify for life safety, that might not fall within the purpose. So working cash is typically the type of bonds we issue, which you saw the limit is very large. Funding bonds, those are issued when there's no working cash ability generally. Okay, so here is the proposed Series 23 and 24 refunding and new money for capital projects. Starting on the left side of the page, we mentioned the 2019 refinancing. What we're showing at the bottom of that page is the savings for that transaction was $1.7 million, and new money proceeds of $4.7 million. Interest rates were much lower in 2019. In 2021, rates were still low on that issue, which was smaller. We were able to extract $1.2 million of new money proceeds and still have present value savings. What we're proposing here in the refunding of the 2013 bonds is getting the district approximately $3.1 million that you could add to the capital projects fund. And there's some net present value savings lower of $147,000. And then we would suggest coming back the following year for the 12/1/24 call date for the 14 bonds, and that would, based on current interest rates with a cushion of 50 basis points, get you about $3 million, an additional $3 million. So between the 23 and the 24 refinancing, we can get about another $6.2 million or so that, would go into the capital projects fund. And I will mention, part of our strategy all along here has been not to stretch out any of these bond issues. We're keeping them within the window of their final maturity. And as Raphael mentioned, your new money issuing capacity in full doesn't really come back until the last payment in 2034 and 2035, but because of the CPI growth, because of some of these refundings, it looks like we might get a little more room once we get out to 2031, 32, and 33. So again, we're essentially turning interest savings and capacity to pay off this debt into, between the 2 years, approximately $6.2 million for the district to use towards capital. And this is just a picture where you see the various outstanding DSEB debt service, post-refunding, and then the 23 and the 24. Sorry, I've been talking a lot. Questions?
The net savings, the opportunity there makes sense. We've done this before, and we've taken advantage of it. And there's a strategy to do that. And I appreciate that you said that we're not extending our maturity period here. Can you explain the opportunity that presents us that we're not extending the maturity date as we get post refundings, this gap? What are some opportunities for us in the future for issuing new bonds?
We have similar opportunities to do what we're doing now in 25 and 26 because of those call dates on the 2015 and 2016 bonds. I think those will be even bigger opportunities because those type of bonds were capital appreciation bonds. Not to get too technical, but they're a higher interest cost type of bond that pay no interest till maturity. So I didn't go ahead and project those for you yet, but I think those will be some opportunities. And then when we get to 2031, then you're really going to start to get into some strong opportunities for issuing new money debt. You see the capacity under the DSEB is up to like 8.6 million per year and growing. So at that point, I think it would really serve the district well to spend some time thinking about what your strategy is going forward in terms of capital projects and how to use this resource. I will just suggest that other districts typically we see them limit themselves to a 10-year payback with room to issue more debt in 5 years, so that future boards don't find themselves in a position that you guys have been waiting, for this debt to get paid off, to really access more capacity without referendum to plow into your buildings, which, are older buildings, right?
You say that very well, and I think a lot of people have not understood that we have been at our capacity, which has left us with very little flexibility in this effort. Thank you for the presentation and explaining it. Are there questions?
Okay. Let me just go to the schedule then.
Okay.
To move forward with this strategy, there are some public processes that are required by the Illinois statute. So what I'm suggesting, here we are tonight on April 19th. If you're in agreement, I would suggest meeting with the board on the 24th of April to the same discussion. And then May 22nd, bring a resolution of intent not to exceed 6.2 or 6.5 million, I might suggest, to encompass not only this new money portion, 3 million in 23, but also in 24. That process is good for 3 years. So that means we don't have to go through all the publications, public hearings next year to do the 24 refunding. Then on May 24th, publish a notice of intent in the newspaper. June 12th, hold the public hearing. And then in July, August, we would be talking about the bond rating and the type of bond sale based on market conditions. We would bring the parameters bond resolution to the board on August 28th. That's the last board action required for the issue of bonds. We would go ahead and mail the offering document to investors and sell the bonds around September for closing around September 28th. With the call date being December 1, we can execute the refunding 90 days prior to the call date and still have it a current refunding. So this is kind of the soonest we could do the transaction. And then on October 16th meeting, the board would abate the $3 million from the working cash fund to the O&M capital projects fund and be ready to spend that money on next summer's projects.
Are there scenarios in the market where this advice would change and you would recommend we not do this?
I don't think so. The only thing I could see to stop us would be if interest rates went up a lot, so that the savings, the $3 million, wasn't available. And in that case, the authorization is still good. We could just wait.
Wait it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And all the information that is available out there shows that the Feds have reached a tipping point, if you will, of increase in interest rate. So that I think Liz mentioned that there's an expectation of another quarter point in May. And after that, inflation is actually cooling down. If you look at the last couple of months CPI report. So, yeah, the possibility of that is possible, but it's highly unlikely.
Any other questions? Thank you for the timeline as well.
You bet.
And all of this, the presentation's not available online, is it? It will be, okay. For our general consumers in YouTube land to take a look at. With no other questions, I move that the bond refunding and new money opportunity recommendation be brought to the full board for discussion and approval.
Second?
Yes.
I'll abstain.
Yes.
Agenda, thank you, Liz.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. Agenda item number 5 is the discussion on sustainability efforts. And Karen is here with us. Thank you. Maybe before we do this, related to the refunding and new money, it's not related to the financial advice. We have $189 million in outstanding work that Corrigan Clark identified, right?
Yes.
And we
at
have,
that time, it was 100.
At that time, it was 189. It's probably gone up.
Based on inflation since then, because this was in February of 2021. So it's been over a year now.
Okay, so if I'm, I'm a walker and a shoot dad, but if I'm looking at this facility condition assessment and I see in here that there's like 20 years worth of work that could be done that was outlined by our outside vendor, this isn't actually the action plan.
No, this is just an assessment, a snapshot.
At what point will we decide how to spend that money if we're going to put it into facility repairs?
What the goal is, one of the main reasons why we did a master facility plan, and a related part of that is the facility assessment, is that we didn't have a coordinated system of dealing with our facility need, which is why we did the RFP and the architect was engaged to do the assessment. And the assessment and the report lays out the process that should be used to prioritize the work that should be done. And I think it makes sense for us to follow that, the priority that was laid out by the architect, that was paid by the board to do the work. And that is laid out in there. And the determination was made based on the severity of the need, as well as the need to address those repairs with urgency. Those are the reasons that were given by the architect. So I think to answer your question, we need to follow that plan. As we have money, as we're sitting here right now, we don't have $200 million or anywhere close to it. The plan that we've undertaken is to use some of our reserves because of the 5% from CPI last year, and the expectation there will be another 5% at the end of this year to use the extra money to start addressing those facility needs. Considering that we are looking at $200 million growing every day, we're just using $6 million each year from the increase in the CPI to start tackling it. But at some point, we probably need to come up with a more comprehensive approach as to how we'll fund that.
Got it. And I think just thinking back to some of our public speakers, we heard from folks that they want to be in the know about the decision-making process and the prioritization. That seems like a fair request. When you say that there's $200 million of needs, it would be fair to assume that a reasonable person in the community would be aware of some of those needs because that's a lot of need,
yes.
Right? And so as we go forward, for example, a fence around King Arts, it probably was already in the plan because I imagine you didn't hear about it this morning and contracted today.
We actually have that queued up for this summer. That will actually, between July and August, that will be completed.
So that's great to hear. So when I look at the needs, if there's $17 million of urgent needs and we can only tackle 6 of them at a time, that means that somebody's needs aren't getting met. And it would be great to find a way to synchronize how do we communicate with buildings and communities to let them know that this is what's happening, this is when it's happening, or you're on the list, but it's not yet, right?
What we were trying to do, we're trying to take advocacy out of it.
Yep.
We're trying to do this purely based on the professional recommendation of the architect. And the work that is being done this summer and what is queued up to be done in 2024, there was a letter of recommendation provided by the architect that based on their professional opinion and the assessment of the conditions of the buildings, this is the work that have been recommended. And that's the approach that I will recommend that the board takes in making decisions. So it's more balls on strike by an independent person.
Yep.
As opposed to be based on advocacy.
Well, and we talked about it with the Haven Windows project, right?
Right.
You know, the health life safety plan first deals with, you know, like dealing with the envelopes of the building so that we don't have,
Right.
you know, cascading problems inside.
The same thing with the asbestos
Yep.
project. That's another reason why we prioritize that. We're looking at some of our buildings that have the asbestos been covered with carpet for years. And those carpets are fraying, and we can't really replace those carpets without doing abatement.
Yep.
So we have to abate those areas, and then we have to replace them with LVT carpeting. So those are the kinds of things that, so we look at the things that we need to do with urgency. I should mention window envelopes, where there's water intrusion into buildings. And we know water and buildings don't mix. When we have windows that are leaking, we got to address those. When we have asbestos that are covered up by carpet, that are framed, we need to address those. When we have plumbing issues or ceiling issues, we have to address those are critical need. And we have to make sure that we address those based on where they're located and the urgency of the needs in those buildings.
And I, like,
Oh, no, and I just want to add, you know, the collaboration between Mr. Sierra's facilities plan every month, all of the work that does get done around the district. I know the Chute Middle School kids still are without a gym, and, you know, that's something that came up unexpectedly. And then same thing with the finance team and working with sustainability, all of the efforts that have gone into grants that can, you know, help with this facilities plan and helping out our schools. So I just think also acknowledging that, and I think that's been transparent and that's been put out there. You know, things are going to happen. I think any of us that own homes, you know, if it hails, suddenly you need new roof or something.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's not an easy task. Thank you for saying that. It's really not an easy task. We have HN buildings, and except for this building that was built 23 years ago, the average age of our building is in the 70s. And we know we haven't had the resources to allocate to take care of these buildings. So the majority of our buildings need work. They need critical work. Making a determination of what to fix is very, very difficult, which is why we decided to take subjectiveness out of it and ask an expert, the architect, to come in and say, based on the expertise, these are the projects we should prioritize. If money was no issue, we'll address all those buildings, but we don't have that luxury. And the best way we could think about doing this, the best practice, is to have an architect prioritize based on the urgency of the needs that arise.
yeah, I was just going to echo, like, I appreciate how you've taken a thoughtful approach to it and really have a plan in order to look at the priorities and the needs across all of the buildings in the district. And I think if anything, just, you know, having us make sure, you know, the community knows all of the work that was put into that and sort of knows, you know, without any new emergencies come up, sort of where they fall into the plan would be helpful, because there definitely has been a lot of work put into, like, identifying the priorities and working through the list.
Yeah.
And it's an equitable approach too. You know, it's not just whoever has the most community that's the loudest and can show up. It's also, you know, this was looked at it from a third party perspective, and there's a rubric attached to it as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we heard from folks is, you know, what costs nothing is making time to have a conversation about it at a meeting, to share what the thought process is. And I think that's something that we can definitely make space for in the coming year.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Karen, sustainability efforts.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah.
I'm Karen Barata. I'm the Sustainability Coordinator for the district, and I'm here to provide you with some updates on what we've been doing this past year, and Happy Earth Month, Happy Earth Week. So first, it's a timely discussion. So we are in the final stages of applying for a Renew America Schools grant.
Big grant.
A big grant, yeah. So we're applying for 7 of our existing school buildings, and we're asking for over $11 million in grant funding. And we submitted a concept paper in January. We were invited to submit a full application, and we are in the finishing touches of that right now. So it's due on April 21st.
Awesome.
We've also completed free ComEd carbon-free assessments. These are free and available to our schools. So we started with 4 assessments in January and February of this year. We started with Haven, Chute, and Nichols, our 3 standalone middle schools, and Kingsley as well. We received the reports in late March, and so we are internally evaluating those, and then we'll decide if these are beneficial and helpful, or we'll move forward and complete the assessments with the rest of our schools. So here's more information if you want to kind of click in and dive in. It is a free assessment for our schools, and I think it's a really nice opportunity to kind of build on and continue the work of the Master Facilities Plan. We do have some positive impact from our LED lighting upgrades. These happened in 11 of our schools last summer. So I feel like it's a win-win-win when we're sharing this opportunity. So it's improved lighting levels for our students and for our teachers. They now have dimmable options as well in the classrooms. We've also had a 25% reduction in electricity, and that equals saving 233 metric tons of carbon emissions over the year. And when we've been looking at the cost savings as well, we're estimating around a 33% cost savings by finding this reduction in our electricity as well. I will say that the cost savings, we have received a carbon mitigation credit, kind of like almost rebate. So our electricity rate has been lower this year. It's been through the Climate Equity and Jobs Act through ComEd. So just to note that there's a little bit of that mitigation credit that has tapered off, and it also includes the LED lighting upgrades. So just to let you know, there's a little bit of a mix there, but it's a win-win-win of it's better lighting for our students and teachers. We're saving electricity and we're saving on cost. I will say, so we said 11 schools happened last summer, and the rest of our schools will have the upgrades completed this coming summer.
Karen, I just want to point out that the money to pay for all this LED work was the refunding that was done last year, $1.2 million. Paid for all this work, and then we also got additional money from ComEd to pay for that. So this is the real life effect of the refunding that we just talked about. Without the refunding, I don't think we would have been able to do this. And the impact on climate action, as well as the reduction in the cost of electricity for the district.
And it was the first action recommended by the Corrigan Clark team after they did the assessment to say, here's something you can afford that would impact almost every building. That would be a win-win-win.
Awesome. We're really proud to say that this year, as of November, all of our schools have lunchroom composting and recycling. We had some really good momentum before COVID that took a pause. Some things got kind of rolled back. And so by November, we have all of our schools that have lunchroom composting and recycling. It's also a really nice shout out for the We Compost program through the Illinois Food Scrap and Composting Coalition, that our school district has the most number of schools of any school district in the state of Illinois that offers this in our lunchrooms. And we've also put out all student voices video in English and in Spanish. It's really great, where our students are explaining to our community what this is and why it is important and how they are helping the earth. So I would really encourage you, we had shared this earlier this winter, and so please take a look both in the English and the Spanish versions. And it's something that we've been working on for a really long time, and it's really, really great to see our students doing this work in the lunchroom. All right. We also had a really nice partnership with the City of Evanston and our D65 middle schools. So in the fall, we put out a call for a competition to say, why is recycling important for the earth? This tied in with the America Recycles Day that was happening in November. So we opened this up to all 5 of our middle schools, and we said create some really incredible artwork that shows us why recycling is important to the earth. We had a public vote, and then our winner was selected. They were actually able to go to the City of Evanston City Council in November and receive a recognition. And then we put this out there. So we're really excited. A big congratulations to Zainab, our Shoot 8th grader. This is her artwork that is currently displayed on one of our City of Evanston recycling trucks. It was really fun. It was like a January, February, very snowy day, as you can see from the picture, but the recycling truck actually rolled up in front of Shoot. So Zainab was able to come out with her art teachers, with Mr. Mack, the principal, with some of our middle school teachers and liaisons, and her parents, as well as City of Evanston staff, to really celebrate. So I would encourage you, if you see Zainab's recycling truck rolling around, give it a wave. I was told we could give it a honk as well, to kind of like acknowledge and celebrate why recycling is important to the earth. We're also really pleased to say that collectively, through a lot of partnerships, we have planted 94 trees on our school grounds since 2018. So we have more tree plantings, as you can imagine, underway now that the weather, I think, is almost spring, or supposedly spring if we can avoid a little more snow. So we've had some really nice tree plantings happening in the fall of the school year, and we have more planned at 9 of our schools for this coming spring. We also have been trying to work together more collaboratively with our schools to get approvals between, our community members have ideas on, we would love new trees somewhere. And then we want to make sure that we're collaborating with our school leaders to make sure they know about it, make sure we're coordinating with our custodians on any utilities that might be in certain areas of our school grounds. So this is a new collaboration process. You're welcome to click into this, and this is what we're encouraging all of our schools and our community members to use moving forward. So we're thinking about summarizing your idea, sharing that, collaborating with your school, planning and prepping for your planting, and then thinking about watering and keeping it growing. And this is both for tree plantings as well as native plants on our school grounds. It is Earth Month, so we're really happy to share some of the activities that are happening across the district. The first is classroom engagement, where we've created Eco Heroes and Eco Tips. It's Google Slides. It's available every day this week for our teachers to, if they're able to, they're encouraged to share with their classrooms this week. We've also got a new thing that has started this year is School Climate Action Project. So we created think about a menu of options of different activities where our students can start taking action and really bringing climate action to life at their school. Every school is different. There's a unique personality. They might have different things that excite them and engage them, so we wanted to give them options. And we're so pleased to say that 10 of our schools have self-selected to say, yes, we want to do a school climate action project. So we've got some happening in the month of April, some depending on if they're planting will happen in May, but it's really nice to see this spreading across our schools and giving our students an opportunity to take action. And we also have a community event coming up this Friday at the Rotary Building, where students are encouraged to create a 10-second film on what you can do to help nature or climate action. All of these 10-second videos will get cut together and then previewed and displayed at the 10-second Film Festival. So it is free to the public, and everyone is encouraged to join, and you can click on the website if you'd like to learn more. And I think the deadline for applying is today. So if your students haven't applied yet, you are welcome to do so. All right, and then last but not least, we wanted to talk about something that is coming up. So last year, one of the very first things that I helped coordinate when I started was an end-of-the-year classroom and locker cleanout. So last year we had 14 participating buildings. We had 305 donation boxes get moved out of our schools, and we had 48 volunteers and staff helping. And we donated these materials to Creative Chicago Reuse Exchange. We did encourage reuse within our schools. So let's say a teacher has put markers in that they don't need, and then another, let's say, art teacher will need those markers. They were encouraged and welcome to take those materials out. So this is just kind of a reminder of the positive impact of last year. So the good news is we're going to host this again. We are right now plans are underway where we're asking for our schools, if they're interested in participating, to sign up by April 28th. We are giving ourselves a longer amount of time this year, so we're going to be set up collection stations, boxes over a month in our schools. Our end of school should be June 6th, and then this gives our teachers a few more days and staff if they'd like to add things into the boxes, if they'd like to take things out of the boxes. We're then going to rally any staff, any parent volunteers who would like to come in. We're also looking at reaching out to ETHS to see if there's student volunteers. They could get community service hours and credit to be able to come in and help us sort and box up any materials that are for donation. We'll then coordinate pickup with our D65 warehouse and then donate these materials. We're adding a few things this year. One thing is we're partnering with a local organization, Art Makers Outpost, so we can keep materials that are local for donation to a local organization. Scarce will accept curriculum books, which is great, and then we're also going to any additional materials. We're also encouraging if schools would like to set up a school supply swap closet. So again, how can we keep these materials in our schools, recirculating within the school? So we're giving this as an option for schools if they would like to do that. There's options if a school would like to invite families to come in and help pick up any materials that they would like, as you can help box and sort up. That's a really wonderful opportunity as well. So we're really trying to learn and expand what we've done last year and really try to take this as an opportunity to reuse more materials within our schools and then give back locally as well as regionally. So with that, we've got some sustainability resources if you're interested, and here's my email address if there's ever anything that I can do to help and support. And I just wanted to thank you for your time and answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Karen. That's a lot. It's a lot of growth in the sustainability department, so thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Questions?
I have more comments. No, Karen, this is so tremendous and really great to hear. I kind of had more kind of like add-ons to your presentation. I'm thrilled to hear about ComEd, and I did kind of want to let our community know about ComEd. They do free home assessments as well, which is great, and it can actually be also for renters if you just check in with your landlords, and they just come in, they look at everything, and if you're income eligible, I think you get a lot of free products, from LED light bulbs. They'll even replace your manual thermostat with like a smart thermostat, shower heads, hot water pipe installation. They even will give out power strips too. And if you aren't income eligible, I think it's all at a discounted rate. So just kind of putting that out there. It was kind of tremendous just to learn how many areas I could have done better in my home. And then just next, I know that our PTA Council, they're doing their second annual district-wide plant sale. I'm gonna look this up here.
Yes, the native plant sale.
Yeah, the native plant sale on May 13th, and I know that they're going to take online pre-orders, and there will be lots of native plants for sale in person too. So just kind of adding on to the amazing work you've been doing.
Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, no questions here. Just, thank you for all of the work that you're doing, and I'm especially excited to see the work towards the grant and how you're working so hard to try to get us funding for that. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I think we'll hear this summer what the decision is on the grant.
No, it's really exciting. I think it's cool to see, I work on composting and collection of markers and things at the end of the year, and $12 million grant applications, right?
Yes.
That's range right there.
Yes. There's all kinds of opportunities and ways that climate action can come alive in our schools.
Big and small. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
She said they take curriculum recycling too.
There you go. Agenda item number 6 is the security plan and operations update.
All right. How everybody doing today? I guess I'm on the last presentation. I got to wake up a little bit. Wake up just a little bit. We'll get us through this, I promise you. It's actually the most exciting presentation all day, trust me. Good afternoon, members of the school board and all of the stakeholders. I am Terrence Little, the Assistant Superintendent of Operations for School District 65. I am pleased to share our continuous efforts to maintain a safe and secure environment for our students, staff, and all stakeholders who visit our campuses. One way we ensure safety through the revision of our safety manual. One way we ensure safety is through the revision of our safety manual for school leadership teams, where we incorporate new procedures based on the latest research and best practices. For example, we have revised our procedures for handling inappropriate photos sent and received by students, aligning it with Title IX guidelines, district policies, and legal guidelines. The focus on Title IX guideline reflects our commitment to providing an educational environment that supports the social and emotional development of our students. To further enhance our safety procedures, Mr. Samuel Munez, the Manager of Prevention and Special Response, and Mr. Ernest Cato, the Assistant Manager of Prevention and Special Response, and I have received over 150 hours of professional development this school year, allowing us to better support our students and stakeholders. We have also formed a great partnership with Andy Fran, who provide crossing guard services to our district. Our bi-weekly meetings with them ensure collaboration on best practices and addressing concerns, which contributes to our overall safety plan. We are also working with them to add specific social-emotional needs training to their professional development plan for the 23-24 school year. As for police involvement, we have protocols in our safety manual that direct administrators on when police should be called beyond, of course, obvious emergency situations. In addition, we collaborate with different departments to discuss various scenarios and agree on when to call the police in weekly standing meetings that always include Mr. Munez from the operations department, from the schools department, Mr. Palmer, and from the student services department, Ms. Candelaro. Ensuring that other departments are on the same page. This method also provides multiple points of support for school teams when needed and ensures information can be added to professional development across the district. To harden the school's exterior, we have implemented required checklists completed several times daily by the concierge to check safety points and ensure safety throughout the entire time stakeholders are on our campus. Additionally, we provide consistent communication and training for the concierge on how to interact and address students in crisis as part of our CARES team. All right. Transportation. Evanston-Skokie District 65 is a dedicated school district that continuously strives to ensure all students' safety and well-being throughout the students' entire school day. The entire school day also includes our student experiences as they make their way to and from school. With this in mind, the Transportation Department has taken several measures to enhance the quality of transportation services we provide. We are pleased to announce that we have made significant strides in this regard, including the creation of a comprehensive transportation handbook. Our handbook serves as a guide for all stakeholders, including families, school personnel, and other community members, by providing a clear understanding of our transportation procedures and guidelines. As a result, this handbook will not only promote compliance with our policies, but will also reduce the volume of calls to the school, ultimately creating a safer and more efficient transportation system. To ensure the highest quality of this handbook, we have engaged in a collaborative process with our principals. In addition, we are in the process of engaging our cabinet members and other stakeholders to receive valuable feedback that we will incorporate in our handbook. Throughout this collaborative approach, we aim to create a transportation handbook that promotes a social and emotional learning environment for our students while ensuring their safety and well-being going to and from school. Additional exciting news. In line with our commitment to promoting a safe and secure learning environment for our students, the Operations Department is collaborating with the Communications Department to develop an all-inclusive web page that will house a safety manual for stakeholders, social-emotional learning resources, and a section detailing what stakeholders should be aware of during different crisis situations. This webpage will provide our parents and stakeholders with essential information and resources to help them better understand our procedures and guidelines before, during, and after a crisis. By staying transparent and keeping our stakeholders informed, we can work together to promote a safer and more connected learning environment. Furthermore, the Transportation Department is thrilled to announce they are almost complete. Thanks to the approval of the raise concerning our bus aides, we are proud to announce that the transportation vendor has been able to hire more aides, which has led to a significant reduction in severe and minor bus infractions this school year. This achievement demonstrates our commitment to safety and our students' well-being. Lastly, our concierges are undergoing a professional development plan that includes Beyond Diversity training, CPR first aid training, CPI conflict resolution training, and school connectedness and relationship building PD, just to name a few. These trainings are the start to ensure that our concierges have the necessary skills to promote a safe, supported, and inclusive learning environment. It is essential to understand as a district we are committed to providing our students with a safe and supportive learning environment. To this end, we have invested in our lunchroom supervisors by providing them with the necessary tools to respond to emergency situations, such as choking during lunch and recess. In addition, our lunchroom supervisors have undergone CPR AED certification to ensure they can begin the life-saving process while the school nurse is on their way. We understand that every second counts, and we are dedicated to ensuring that our students receive prompt and efficient care in the event of an emergency. We have added over 35 new AEDs and first aid stations throughout the district to ensure we keep with our safety mantra of every second counts. Furthermore, our lunchroom supervisors have also received training in social emotional learning and student engagement strategies through our partnership with Playworks. Playworks' evidence-based program have been proven to transform learning environments for children in under-resourced and de-invested communities, giving kids the opportunity to be physically active and practice social-emotional skills like empathy and resilience. As a result, we have seen tremendous growth and progress in our students' overall well-being and social skills during lunch and recess. I am delighted to announce that our partnership with Playworks has grown from one school in 2019-2020. In addition, the partnership expanded to 6 schools in the 21-22 school year. This school year, we have 15 schools receiving direct services. In addition, in the upcoming 23-24 school year, we're proposing to scale the partnership to all 17 schools receiving direct services. We are confident this expansion will lead to even more positive outcomes for our students and the school community. Finally, I want to share some feedback we have received from our administrators on the impact of the partnership with Playworks program in their schools. Dewey administrator reports that Playworks have positively impacted their school by giving students additional play opportunities for indoor and outdoor recess. Recess and class game time have been the most beneficial for Dewey thus far. For class game time, teachers allow the students to play those games during earned free time. Playworks has also helped Kingsley establish specific play zones on their playground with established rules and provide students leadership opportunities through their junior coaches program. Our partnership with Playworks has been great, and we are committed to continuing the valuable collaboration. That statement is from the Kingsley administration team. Athletics. I commend the entire district on a successful launch of our elementary athletics program. Our winter season saw over 350 student athletes participate in our cheerleading and basketball programs. We take pride in knowing that our sports programs provide not only a fun and exciting outlet for our students, but also an opportunity for social and emotional growth. District 65 commitment to the betterment of all students extends beyond our district borders, as evident by our partnership with neighboring schools to ensure their students have access to our exceptional sports programs. Through this collaboration, we were able to accommodate an additional 100 students in need of these enriching experiences. Moreover, our partnership with Evanston's Park District allowed us to provide their basketball program free of cost to students in grades 1 through 3 who would have otherwise been unable to participate because of the fees in the past. This collaboration provided an opportunity for students to engage with the larger community while also allowing our operations department to expand on safety protocols and training for concierges around crowd control and event management as they help to support these events. As we enter our final sports season for elementary, we proudly announce over 350 student athletes have signed up for soccer and track. Our partnership with the Quad Complex in Evanston ensures that our students and all other stakeholders have a safe and fun environment to participate in soccer while also providing a contingency plan in case of inclement weather. Our first games were held last Saturday, April 15th at the Quad Complex. Additionally, through our partnership with ETHS Athletic Department, we will host our first elementary track meet on Saturday, May 13th at ETHS, which will start at 11 a.m. Our elementary athletics program is a testament to our commitment to fostering the holistic growth of our students. We are excited to see the continued success of our sports programs and the positive impact they have on our community. And on a lighter note, we hope that the students from the other districts who enjoyed our sports program so much that they will join us in the fall in what we hope to be an even more exciting year, but they'll be a part of our school district. And congratulations to Joey. If anybody didn't know, his team actually was one of the winners of our elementary sports team. So let's just give him a round of applause.
Kids won. I was just there.
All right. Updates in our software services. I am also pleased to announce that we are making significant progress in our efforts to provide a safe and secure learning environment for our students and staff through software programs. One of our programs, Navigate 360, we have been working diligently to ensure that all state-mandated drills are completed on time. Thanks to our dedicated team of professionals and administrators, we are on track for the first time in the last 2 years of accomplishing this goal. We are also taking proactive measures to address potential threats by training our school personnel on a tip line that is also housed inside of Navigate 360. The tip line and our current threat assessment protocols that the Department of Specialized Services perform will be launched next school year inside of Navigate 360. By taking these measures, we are confident that we can identify and address potential issues before they become severe problems, due to the fact that all departments will be working together and can see each other's work. Our Hall Pass system is another critical component of our safety measures. We have formalized policies and procedures for different scenarios, which include knowing how to handle visitors who need to be monitored during their visit. In addition, Hall Pass serves as a notification mechanism to help us quickly identify and inform first responders of adults who are currently inside the building, mainly central office employees and members of the maintenance custodial teams whenever there's a crisis. So for instance, if we have a central office employee or a maintenance employee over in Dewey who don't work there and we have a crisis, we're able to alert the police or first responders immediately of all the adults in the building without looking for a principal or supervisor. We have also developed a succession plan to ensure that Hall Pass operates smoothly, even in the cases of absences of key personnel, such as the administrative assistant and the concierge. Also, I am thrilled to announce that we have rolled out phase 3 or 4 of our Smart Tag program with the launch of our parent portal last week. This new feature will provide parents with real-time updates on their children's whereabouts and attendance while they are on the school bus. Additionally, our 3 main middle school administrators have been trained and have all the equipment to print IDs for their students, ensuring that we have an accurate record of who is in our schools at all times. A little feedback. At the onset of the school year, we received valuable feedback regarding the perception of our district security measures, with some expressing concerns about an over-reliance on policing and security guards. In response, we've adopted a more balanced approach, with a focus on hardening the exterior while cultivating a more welcoming and supportive environment inside of our schools. Our leadership team has taken a holistic approach, prioritizing both physical safety and social-emotional well-being. By doing so, we're able to provide our students with the most comprehensive and effective learning environment possible. I am proud to report that despite 2 significant safety incidents that occurred this year, all stakeholders involved with District 65 were able to maintain a secure and safe learning environment for all of our students, staff, and any visitor that was on our campus. During a recent fire near one of our schools, our operations team worked collaboratively with the schools team to stabilize the school and ensure a safe learning environment for all stakeholders. We acted as a bridge for the fire and police departments. We were able to lead the initiative of assisting the displaced families by providing them with temporary housing and meals until the city could find suitable accommodations. Our entire team worked together for over 6 hours, providing social work services to those in need while also ensuring a nurturing learning environment for our students. Additionally, we also had a securing teaching incident at one of our schools. When the police department informed us of a person of interest in the area, our operations department acted quickly by informing Mr. Palmer and his team to assist Lincoln School leadership team in softening the interior. Simultaneously, Mr. Muniz and his team began to harden up the exterior of the building by ensuring all doors were locked and blocking visibility to the inside of the school. In addition, we communicated with all stakeholders, including the Evanston Police Department, cabinet members, school leadership team, community members, and even the transportation department, where we had to quickly develop a plan for students that were out on field trips to ensure a coordinated and safe effort. As a result, when the situation got a little bit more heightened, we were able to go on a district-wide secure and teach protocol and continue a nurturing environment for all of our schools while ensuring all of our buildings were secure. These are 2 real-life scenarios that have taught us how far we have come and what work still remains. We remain committed to our mission of social and emotional learning, transportation safety, and educational excellence. Our manager and assistant manager of prevention and special response and other concierges from around the district played a significant role in leading our schools to maintain a safe environment during these entire ordeals. In conclusion, our efforts to ensure safety and a positive learning environment, combined with our dedication to social and emotional learning, transportation safety, athletics, and educational excellence, had made us the best district on earth. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. There was a lot of updates going on in there. The I think where to begin. I think one of the questions that we got from kind of before the board meeting intake was about the concierges and bringing them along at professional development for them. Has there been a consistent way that concierges have been introduced to school communities so that people know who they are, what their role is, or has it really been building leader dependent?
Well, when you say the individual school community inside the building or
Or externally, right? This is someone who goes outside, walks the perimeter, is a familiar, face.
So as far as the teachers and students inside of the building, that is something that we provide to the principals to make sure they provide it to their inside school community. We also make sure they have a little rhetoric that they can pass out through their weekly principals information. One of the reasons why we went to the, I don't want to say uniform shirt, but polo shirt, is so the community could actually understand who we are, see who we are, and don't look at us like, who is that walking around the building all day? So we just wanted to make sure they did have a District 65 paraphernalia that they can always wear at all times, to that way so the community understands who they are and know who they are.
Great. Do they get a chance to meet together to kind of talk about the work?
Yes, we actually get to meet during our half days. And so that's when we come together and meet. And sometimes we have emergency meetings. Like an example would be, we call for an emergency meeting after the district-wide crisis to bring everybody together to try to work on what went right, what went wrong, what did you do, things of that nature. And we're actually in the middle of creating another what to do exactly in some of these situations according to their buildings. So that way, because we also know that some of our concierges, they may be out, things of that nature. We may be flipping around, switching. So when you're in a different building, you have instant access to what to do specifically for that building when it's on a secure and teach or when it's on a hard lockdown.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
This is, I guess, more of a comment. I saw that smart tag, rolled out the parent portal. I was curious since I hadn't received any emails, so I looked it up. I registered my kids. I would recommend before district-wide communication goes out, double-check the guardians that are on each of the accounts.
Our information is pulled straight from Power Schools.
Something must not be aligned because my guy has his grandparents as his guardians.
I have my sister and ex-father-in-law.
Okay, I'll check into it.
I mean, I know who those people are because they're on the call list, but
It must have somehow,
yeah,
through translation, but we'll look into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just say, I appreciate everything that you're doing because I realize how complicated your job is and how hard of a job it is to make sure that we are continuing to keep our schools safe along with everything else. And just, I feel like, unfortunately, as a nation and as a community, we continue to learn just because of things that are going on. And so I guess my question is, is there anything else, or is there anything that you sort of see based on things that have happened that you've learned this year that you think we should be doing better or looking into?
The answer is yes. I won't go into detail, of course. But I can say that from, like I say, over the 150 professional development hours that we have experienced, it's never going to be where it's perfect. It's not going to happen. And the rough part of it is my job is, as me being a perfectionist, knowing that it will never be perfect. But that's actually the best part of it because you continue to strive. It's always something else to do, something else to learn, another thing to do. But we also want to ensure, and that's one of our main goals, is that we don't turn ourselves into a prison. That we don't affect the kids in any other way. And that's one of the main reasons we didn't hire an entire security staff. We actually went after individuals that had customer service experience. Because we wanted them to be able to have that part already, and we just train you on what to look for and things of that nature. because we wanted you to have some piece of being able to converse, talk to parents, students, and different people from different environments. But there's always things that we can do. I will say that, well, I won't say that, but there's a lot of things that we can do, and I'll probably be talking over to the finance department to see if I can get some money for a 5-year plan and be back in here discussing with you guys a 5-year plan. But where we've come from the beginning of this year to now, I think is monumental, and actually I will be attending a training in next week. No, I'm sorry, the second week of May, where I'll be presenting some of the things that we have done already this year that, you know, is amazing that we've been able to accomplish so much in a short time.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Agenda item number 7 is our Buildings and Grounds report. Dare I say there's nothing exceptional in there? It's a lot of work still, a lot of some of the same.
Yes. I'll start by saying good evening, and I'd like to begin by saying that this spring was spring break was very busy and productive for both the custodial and maintenance staff. The custodians were assigned to their building doing detailed work. Over at the warehouse, there's an exterior door which was a security and safety issue. It was a very old door, deteriorated door, so we ordered a new one. So our carpenter, Adrian, and our maintenance supervisor, Omar, did an excellent job of installing the door. They went and cut the frame out and put a new frame and put a new door, made it secure. We have an alarm on there, and it turned out they did a great job. I mean, I would say it's better than a contractor would do. You know, these guys did a fantastic job with that. I also wanted to update everyone on the gym floor at Chute. They started on April 4th with the installation on the floor. The installation is now complete. So the wood floor is down. So now they're going to start with the striping. They're going to start with the ceiling of the floor, the sealant, and I will update when everything is complete next month. I'll let everyone know. I also did some training during spring break on a piece of equipment that we purchased, which was a scrubber, an Oberville scrubber that the custodial and maintenance staff were very pleased with. This piece of equipment is going to save, is more efficient. It's going to save the district money because we don't have to buy any stripper. And it's more efficient, so it's going to take less time to do the floors, which is very helpful. And it's safer because when you use stripper, you have somebody tripping or slipping or falling with it. That's very slippery. That's why they have to wear those stripper slippers that they call, so that they don't slide or slip when they're stripping the floor. Kind of a funny name they put, but that's what they call them. So that'll be eliminated. The stripping will only be done maybe every 5 years. Once we get this system implemented, that'll all work very good, and it's going to be, like I said, more efficient and time consuming. So it's going to save on labor. By saving on labor, it's going to allow the staff more time to do other things in their buildings. So I wanted to let everyone know that stripper is for the VCT towel that we have, but it can be used throughout the year for scrubbing floors and any other cleaning needs to be done throughout the building. That's what I have for this evening. Any questions?
No. Thank you. Good luck as you head into the summer work.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Without any further business, I move that the Personnel, Buildings and Grounds and Finance Committee move into closed session at 6:28 p.m. to discuss employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body, negotiation, and litigation.
Second.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And the next Buildings and Grounds and Finance Committee meeting will be held on May 15th, 2023. This concludes the open session at 6:28 p.m.